Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God, it's beautiful.
Hey guys, I finally have a new fight analysis video for you, this time on Federico Malagutti. Now, if you don't already know, he has a fantastic YouTube channel where he goes into all different kinds of topics, from different techniques, from Fiore delivery to a step-by-step beginner's guide for longsword, gear reviews. He even has a cooking video on there. So he has tons and tons of videos. I've been a fan of his content for a long time, and I really hope this fight analysis video does his fencing some justice. Now, this video is going to be a little bit different from my previous videos, which have focused entirely off of tournament footage, because I'm mostly interested in techniques that are successful in these high pressure, high stakes kind of situations. But this video is going to be kind of split half and half between tournament footage analysis and the analysis of the videos that he shows on his YouTube channel, which is mostly from kind of friendly, casual sparring with friends. Now, I'm also going to be comparing and contrasting his fencing to Fiore di Battaglia by Fiore, because a lot of his videos focus on Fiore delivery, and a lot of his videos challenge my own interpretations of Fiore. So that compare and contrast to his fencing and that manuscript is something that I find really interesting. Now, the most noticeable component of Federico's fencing is this Posta di Fenestra Fendente combo, the equivalent of hanging and overhow. I saw it many times in his fencing, and he gets some nice hits in, but this technique also leaves his hands exposed, leading to some hand hits and a few afterblows as well. It's not an uncommon technique, but I was impressed by his ability to keep it going for several tempos before pulling off a nice blade grab. Something unique is that Federico often seeks a false edge bind rather than the more common true edge bind. I believe this is the result of attempting to beat aside incoming strikes from Dente de Cinquiaro and Posta di Donna la Sinistra. I would say the main advantage to this is that opponents are more used to a strong contention of the central line with a true edge bind, making these false edge beats surprising. I saw some very nice thrusts. We can see him creeping into measure before landing an explosive and accurate thrust into his opponent. Many of his thrusts are not very committed though, and as a result don't land. This isn't so much of an issue as the thrust functions as a cover into measure, and he finishes the exchange with a Fendente. When thrusting from Posta Breve, Federico pulls the sword towards himself before launching the thrust. This is either telegraphing, or in my opinion it is an intentional feint. In either case, you can see that the first initial mini thrust gets a response from his opponent who is anticipating a committed thrust. Something I would say is a bit telegraphed and could be improved upon is the opening Fendente from Fenestra. It has a big wind-up, which generally does not end too well for Federico. The most impressive and effective technique I saw was the blade grab. When Federico finds himself in a high bind, he often will grab his opponent's blade with his left hand and proceed to stab at the neck with his right. It's a fantastic technique, and he has a lot of success with it. I have to say though, for a Fiorist, I was surprised to see only that one close game technique. I only say this because so much of Fiore di Battaglia focuses on the close game techniques like blade grabs, grappling, and pommel strikes. I also saw a few missed grappling opportunities. Sometimes Federico ends up in a close and high bind, ideal for things like pommel strikes, but he pauses rather than moving into a close game technique. The majority of Federico's cuts originate from the left side, targeting the right side of his opponents. This is true with both his initial attack and parry riposte. One of the cuts I saw becoming more common in his most recent fencing is the Rivolso Sotano, or rising strike from the left side. This cut is almost exclusively done as a riposte. Real quick, check this out. It only lasts one frame, but it's pretty awesome. I will also point out that all of his hand sniping is from the left side. Not uncommon considering the target is the right hand, but still, it follows the same trend. Now, assessing double hits was difficult because I didn't have a great sample size of tournament footage relative to previous Fencels I have reviewed. I just don't have the data to say anything too specific with any conviction. What I can say is that I recorded 8 double hits out of 86 exchanges, which came from 14 individual matches. This yields an adjusted double hit ratio of 82.5 double hits per 1,000 exchanges. That is significantly less than the 147 per 1,000 I calculated as the population average from the Dutch Lions Cup a few years ago. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the link to that video is in the description. All in all, I would say Federico reads his opponent well and has a below average double hit ratio relative to the calculated average. Keep in mind things like rule sets, different opponents, etc. can all influence double hits, so take these values with a grain of salt. I will also add that most of the double hits I saw was during a thrust and his opponent counter-thrusted, all following a parry. If Federico had a long tempo between his parry and his riposte, allowing his opponent to cut into his counterattack. So those are the 2 things I saw which led to his double hits. The next series of clips are not from the tournaments, but are more recent examples of Federico's fencing. This is also a compare and contrast of Federico's fencing to Fiore, as he makes a lot of videos demonstrating Fiore's techniques. Now, a bit of clarification saved me some time in the comments. When it comes to techniques, I mostly care about if a strike is martial and reliable. Most people have a mix of techniques from different manuscripts, as well as things they picked up along the way. That's totally fine. This section is just because Federico and I are both Fiorists, and I think it is cool to evaluate how much of Fiore's techniques he has in his fencing. So let's begin. We can see quite a few Fiore Posta, obviously Posta Breve and Longa. He kind of does Posta di Donna la Sinistra, but it's quite low. We can also see a nice Dente de Cinquiale, as he seeks a beat parry and a riposte. This posta he does quite well and often, but it's a lot more pronounced when he's casually fencing, whereas it's a lot more point forward when he's in a tournament situation. Previously, I've also pointed out that Fenestra Fendente combo he does, so a nice range of Fiore Posta. I spoke a bit about how Federico seeks a beat or bind from the left, and we can see Federico taking an interesting position, similar to a low corona or Einhorn, holding it to his left side. I believe to invite a attack to his right side so he can beat the strike away. It's a more refined version of what I saw in the tournament clips. It's a nice technique, but it is not Fiore. Something else I saw was that Federico pulls his sword back when retreating. Pluses and minuses with this one, as it prevents his opponent from getting containment on his sword, but he gives up valuable defensible space, which makes him vulnerable to a thrust. If you really want to get nitpicky, you can talk about footwork. Federico uses the most common footwork in HEMA, where his back leg is horizontal to his front and the heel is flat on the ground. Compare this to Fiore, where back foot is parallel to the front and the heel is off the ground in many of the posta, such as longa, breve, corona, punta di ferro, etc. My interpretation for this is that you are forward weighted in these posta and are primed to take ground quickly and explosively. That action is generally not seen in the footwork Federico uses, as he tends to creep into measure with moderate-sized steps.
You're not doing the technique.
I also saw a lot of fantastic single-time counters done with a thrust. Something fairly unique to Federico is the rivolso sottano. It is more and more common in his recent fencing, and something I adopted into my own fencing after watching his YouTube videos, so thank you for that one, Federico. There is also a fair bit of deceptive rivolso fendentes in the mix as well. Although I saw a lot of the same close game technique, it is very satisfying to watch and very Fiore. This was just a highlight of some of his fencing. I could have made this video 3 times as long and not have discussed everything. I highly recommend his channel, and if you want to know more, go ahead and check out some of his tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to the next video.